There we go. It's logging in now, Jasmine.
Okay. Done. All right, super. So we are live on YouTube, getting ready to start Attendance Matters.
There we go.
Give us a couple minutes to let
Logging in
people
now,
sign
Jasmine.
in. Oh, it's still logging in. No, I'm streaming. I'm streaming.
All right.
Give us a couple minutes.
We are live on YouTube, getting ready to start Attendance Matters.
There we go.
Give us a couple minutes.
It's always a little delayed, so that can happen. Go ahead and start letting people in. We'll be good to go. Yay.
And here we go. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, guys. Welcome in.
Welcome,
We're gonna give people a
welcome.
couple minutes to sign in. Thank you for being here. You are in the right place if you're here for Attendance Matters every day here at DPS. So, our presenter is Dr. Corey Canty. It's going to be excellent getting started. If you are somebody that's been to Face University, welcome back. If you're new to Face University, thanks for being here. Don't hesitate to drop in the chat. Don't hesitate to come off mute if you have questions. That's what we're here for, to give you some important information and make sure everything's good. So 1 second. Hey, Rumi, thank you for being here for interpretation. We will start the channel in just a minute. I want to introduce how to start translation first.
So while we're waiting, I could tell a really bad dad joke related to
let's go.
attendance. Do you know why the broom was late for school? It overswept.
Ooh, got him. I love it. Okay. Well, we have a few people. I'm going to go ahead and get us on to a soft start here, introducing our sessions. Corey, can you click us to the next page?
I try. There we go.
So we're going to open interpretation. So what this looks like, it's been a while since I've read the script, so bear with me. Before we get started, I'm going to coach you on how to use Zoom and have access to your interpretation channels. Okay, so to listen in your preferred language, if you're connecting from a computer or a laptop, you're going to click on the interpretation globe, the icon on the bottom of your screen. Click the language that you want to hear. To hear the interpreted language only, you need to click mute original audio. But if you're connecting from a mobile device, in your meeting controls, tap the 3 points icon ellipses, tap language interpretation, and tap the language you would like to hear. So we have Vietnamese and Spanish tonight. I'm going to go ahead and start those channels. I'll let you know when they're live. Okay. All right. Your interpretation channel should be live if you need Spanish or Vietnamese. All right, next slide. So just a reminder for our norms, we are recording the sessions still so we can share them with families that aren't able to attend. And on top of that, we are going to be live streaming on YouTube now, some of our sessions, to give even more access to people and families here in DPS. So remember our norms. We lean into discomfort. Sometimes these topics can be heavy, and that's okay. It's okay to speak up, to ask questions, to share out. This is a supportive community. Have compassion for yourself and others. Respect the lived experience and culture of others in this space, and be sure you withhold personally identifiable information. We don't want to share birthdays. We don't want to share addresses here, as it is live and recorded. All right, next slide, please. All right, so this is where we're going to dive into Attendance Matters with Dr. Corey Canty. Briefly, remember we do a feedback survey at the end. Make sure that you stick around for that, because after that is our raffle, and we're going to be giving away 3 sets of tickets to 3 lucky families. So thanks, Corey. You can take it away.
Thanks, Jasmine. I appreciate you. Good evening, everyone. Happy afternoon on a beautiful Thursday. My name is Dr. Corey Canty. Soy la doctora Corey Canty. I will not be flipping into Spanish, but please know that I am fluent in Spanish. So if you have questions afterwards, feel free to reach out directly to me. or in English also. So my role in Denver Public Schools is I am the improvement manager, the school improvement and attendance systems manager. So what I do for Denver Public Schools is I support all of our district levels, our district schools with their improvement plans so that they're improving their school systems for your students. And I also support at the district level and at the school level attendance systems. So one of the things that we're really going to dive into is what's the big deal with attendance? Why does attendance matter? There is a lot of research that has been done around attendance and how it impacts individual students and groups of students. We know that students that have good attendance in preschool, kindergarten, and first grade have a lot higher possibility of reading on grade level by third grade. What we know about reading on grade level by third grade is from preschool until third grade, students are learning to read. Then starting at the end of third grade and all the way fourth grade, all the way up, they are reading to learn. And so it's important that students are able to be reading on grade level by third grade because the rest of their education depends on that reading skill. And we know to get students reading on grade level by third grade, it starts in preschool and kindergarten. There is a direct correlation between students that have high attendance in kindergarten and whether or not they're reading on grade level by third grade. We also know that students who are chronically absent in middle school, sixth grade, are more likely to eventually drop out of high school. It is definitely correlated with that. And we also know that students with high attendance, like more than 90% attendance in ninth grade graders are tough because they feel like they're adults already. But we know that students with attendance higher than 90% in ninth grade are more likely to graduate than students with lesser attendance. It is a big deal. It's highly correlated to success in K-12. Okay, really? Even in pre-K, even in kindergarten, attendance is that big of a deal? We know that if a student in pre-K, in ECE 3 or ECE 4 or pre-kindergarten and kindergarten, if they miss 10% of school, so 1 to 2 days every couple weeks, or if they're regularly arriving to school late or leaving school early, it's harder for those kindergarten students and pre-K students to gain those early reading and math skills that they need, to build those social relationships, which are really important. So much of our learning in schools these days is done through group work and collaborative work, that those relationship skills are super important in order to be able to continue to access learning throughout the rest of their K-12 education. Habits, it's easier to build up a good habit from the beginning than it is to break a bad habit. You all know this from eating habits and workout habits. If you build the good habit up from the very, very beginning, it's easy to maintain that. We want students, when they have had really good attendance habits in pre-K and kindergarten, it's easier to keep up with those in first grade, in third grade, in sixth grade, and then in ninth grade, where students, we say they can vote with their feet. Students in high school and sometimes middle school might just be like, this is stupid, and they take off and ditch. And that affects their attendance and their learning. It also teaches those pre-K and kindergarten kids how to manage their own responsibility. We're doing a lot of modeling and a lot of systems and supports and keeping those high expectations for students to say, this is part of your responsibility, and we're going to help you manage this responsibility for yourself. Absences and tardies can affect the whole classroom. So 1 student missing, 2 students missing, 3 students missing can affect the whole class because the teacher sometimes has to slow down and help children catch up from those days that they just missed. There's also a certain sense of pride. If you've ever talked to students, or maybe you yourself were like, yep, I got that perfect attendance award when I was in school. It helps you feel really good about yourself. Students continue to feel connected with their peers when they're there every day, and they've got those social connections, which are so important for our students. So being there on a regular basis makes sure that they still feel good about themselves, even if it's for a very, very good reason. Like they had a really important dental procedure that would take 3 hours to get because the kid had to be sedated for it or something. Coming back to school the next day and trying to figure out what you missed and what am I supposed to do, it affects how kids think and feel about themselves. So we say attendance. What do we really mean? What is this word attendance? So we have 3 terms that usually pop around when we're talking about attendance. The first one is the attendance rate. An attendance rate is the percent of time that a student attends school. So an example of this is something like 92% or 85%. That's an attendance rate. Truancy rate only counts unexcused absences. We used to talk a lot about truancy. These days, we're really not. We're really talking a lot more about chronic absenteeism. So what is chronic absenteeism? Chronic absenteeism is when a student misses 10% or more of their time enrolled in school for any reason. Excused, unexcused, suspended. If they're not there and they're missing 10% or more, then they would be considered chronically excused. So a student either is, I don't know what happened there, or is not chronically absent. So if a student has got really, really sick and they got COVID and it's the first month of school, so they've been enrolled in school and attending school for 5 weeks, 25 days, and they've already missed 7 days of school because they got really, really sick and they couldn't go, missing 7 out of 25 days is more than 10%, and that student's considered chronically absent, even though it was excused. This is our focus this year in Denver Public Schools. It's also the focus in the state of Colorado, and it's the focus across the country. The White House put out a call saying we need to do something about these high rates of chronic absenteeism. Last year in Denver Public Schools, we had about 1/3 of our students chronically absent last year. That's a lot. So why is chronic absenteeism important? Why does this matter? Missing 10% or more of their time enrolled is like missing 1 to 2 days every couple weeks, every 2 weeks. Or it could also be showing up an hour or 2 hours late every single day because they're missing those first hour or 2 of instruction every day. Why is this important? This image is of a ripple effect. So what this image is it shows kind of water. So when a student, who is the drop in the middle, is one student is missing, then it has a ripple effect. So the first circle is it directly affects other students. For example, students when working in groups, which is our first immediate circle. Many of us remember when we were all had to do group work when we were in school, and there were 3 of us in the group and that one person missed all the time and we had to pick up the slack for that one person. It directly affects students working in groups. This is fairly common these days in K-12 schools where students are put in groups a lot, daily. So when one student is absent, it impacts the group work that they need to do. It also, the next ripple out impacts the teachers on this visual. The next image out impacts the teachers because the teacher then might be asked to give makeup work, which won't really make up the classroom experience, but they're trying to do something to help the student not fall so far behind. And then when the student does come back to school, there's questions, there's catching the student up, and the teacher frequently has to slow down for the rest of the class to catch up those 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 students that missed the pre-work that was needed to get to today's activity. And then lastly, it affects the entire school community. That's that last part of the image on the ripple is the entire school community. We love our students. We love your children. We want them here. We're able to support them, and each student is a vital and important part of our school community. And we want them at school as often as possible. So let's think about chronic absenteeism, and I'm going to try and see if I can open up the chat. So in the chat, we're going to go one of these things at a time, and I want you all, let me see if I can find the chat. I can't find the chat. Can someone else monitor the chat for me,
Yeah,
please?
no problem.
So do you think arriving late, based on what I said, is that a okay thing, or is that not an okay thing in terms of chronic absenteeism? So yes, it's okay to arrive late. It doesn't affect chronic absenteeism, or no. You can just put yes or no
Yep.
into the chat
You
box.
can type yes or no. You're welcome to do a thumbs up, thumbs down with your
Yeah.
emoji board under React. Let us know.
There's the chat. Now I see it.
We have no's coming in. We have one yes.
Yeah.
All across the board.
Actually, arriving late counts against a student's attendance. It is not allowed. Oh, so y'all just saw a preview. Field trips. If your student goes on a field trip, is that considered allowed or not allowed? Yes, okay, not okay.
We got
Yeah,
lots of yeses
my
coming
sneak
in.
peek.
Sneak peeks help.
That is totally awesome. We want your students at school. It does not count negatively against them when they go on field trips. Third one, illness. If your student is sick, legit sick, they have COVID, they've got a horrible fever, 105 degrees. Does that count?
See some thumbs down coming in. No.
Yeah, no, that counts. They're still not at school. And you know what? We don't want your student at school when they've got 105-degree fever. We understand we are all human. That's why we don't start counting chronically absent until that 10% mark, because we do want to give some flexibility, because we are all human and we know things happen. You get sick, there's not much you can do about that. What about leaving early? Is that allowed?
See, no. Thumbs down. No.
Yep. You guys got it. Just like arriving late. If you're if you're pulling your student out of school early because you need to keep beating the traffic, or because of conflicts or with schedules, or that's the only time somebody can pick your child up, so they need to be released 15 minutes early every day, that counts against their students' attendance. It counts towards chronic absenteeism. What about missing school for an appointment? You've got your child has braces and they have to go every 2 weeks to the
We have 2
orthodontist.
no's. We have a thumbs down.
1 o'clock. You guys are catching on. Next one, if they are out of school suspended.
I hear no. I see thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
Nope.
Yep, that counts. They're not in school learning. What about in-school suspension? They're
We
at
have
school.
mixed. We have yes and no.
Oh, this is tricky. Yeah. When they are in school suspension, they are not with their class. They're in a different place, but they're still getting education from the school. That's the difference.
Okay.
They're not getting the same education as they would with their class, but they are in school and they're still getting that education that they need on that day. Kind of tricky. All right. What if they're at school, but they didn't go to that class? Let's say there's a bunch of different scenarios. Let's say They wanted to hang out in the lunchroom for an extra half hour. What if the nurse called them down or the counselor called them down?
We have no's. Anybody else?
Here's my trick question. It depends.
Ooh,
It really depends. If your child has a weekly 30-minute time with the school social worker, that counts as part of their education. That does not count against chronic absenteeism. If your child gets called down to the counseling office to go over college applications, that's okay. That's part of the educational experience. If they're at school, but they're hiding in the bathroom because they don't want to go to class, that doesn't count. That counts against them. If they are 10 minutes late to class every day after lunch or after recess, that counts against them. It really depends, right? What about family trips?
we have some thumbs down. No, we have yes, we have mixed signals.
Yeah. Family trips count against chronic absenteeism. Again, it doesn't matter if they're excused or unexcused. If they're not there getting some sort of education experience related to the school, it counts against them, even if they've got makeup work, right?
Hmm.
Last but not least, we've got a lot of families these days that are like, oh my gosh, my child is so stressed out. We need to take a mental health day.
I see thumbs up. I see yes. I see no. I see thumbs down. These are getting tricky.
Right? Sadly, mental health days count against chronic absenteeism. Again, they're not in school. They're not getting that educational experience. So here's the thing about chronic absenteeism is that, again, we understand, like, I get it. I have 3 children myself. There are some days where it is really, really tough and my child has to go to the doctor, or my child's anxiety might be so extreme that it's anything I can do just to get them to eat something on that day. And in those cases, it's important to get them to school as much as possible. So maybe those are the school years where we are not pulling our child out of school early for any reason. And we are not taking that family trip for an extra 3 days because they've already they're getting close to that 10%, right? So it's about those decisions and making sure that your child is making the best decision for your child in the moment, but also paying attention to, we want these habits to be instilled. So with mental health days particularly, once a child, for many children, if they miss a day for mental health, it's even harder to go back to school the following day, because now not only did they have to stay home and their anxiety, it doesn't magically disappear after one day, but now they have to deal with all the makeup stuff and the missing school stuff that they did. That's kind of the quick rundown on chronic absenteeism. We're going to keep moving on. We talked about being on time. Being on time matters. For students that are 10 minutes late to school every day during the school year, that's like missing 5 full days of school. Even with the vacation days and the teacher prep days and all the days, the holidays off. If a child is 30 minutes late to school every day, that's like missing over 15 days of school. This is why we are counting students showing up late, and students leaving early. Because absences means that you're losing opportunities. The kiddos are losing opportunities and they're falling behind. All right. Here's some new guidance. This is another interaction. So here's your 2 choices. We're going to go through. So there's been a lot of confusion. when we when we were all in the pandemic, we're like, oh my gosh, if you have any COVID symptoms, stay home, stay home, stay home. The pandemic is over. COVID's not gone, but the pandemic's over. So we are now going back to the guidance that we had around how sick is too sick. When should we send our child to school? When should we keep our child home? So here we're going back to the chat or the thumbs up or thumbs down. Let's do, this is going to be hard with a thumbs up and thumbs down. Let's do thumbs up being send to school and thumbs down, keep them at home. So what do you think? If your child has a fever that's higher than 100.4, do you keep them at home or do you send them to school?
Looks like we are seeing votes to keep them at home.
You are right. Good job. What if they vomited 2 or more times in the last 24 hours? This one's probably pretty obvious.
We've got votes to stay home again.
Yep, exactly. What if they have a cold? They have a cough and a runny nose.
I see send them to school, thumbs up, school is good. Give you a break from that runny nose, parents.
Send them to school. Send them to school. We are back to pre-COVID guidelines on this. Stomach ache?
Stomach ache says thumbs up, send them to school, school.
Yep. Send them to school. I mean, it's always good. If your child has a cold or a stomach ache, you know, give the school a heads up so we can monitor during the day. And if things get worse, we'll let you know. What if they have eye pain? There's swelling, there's trouble seeing, or they have an eye injury.
Ooh, we have one that says school, we have one to stay home, another vote to stay home, another vote to stay home.
Yeah, keep them at home.
Can you maybe explain that one since it was a little confusing?
Yeah. So if their eye is swollen, and usually it's a combination of symptoms, right? If there's eye pain and they can see, they seem to be able to see okay, or and there's no injury and it's not swollen, you might be like, maybe we'll see. I'll let the school nurse know or the health tech or the main office know they're complaining about pain in their eye. But vision's pretty important. Vision's pretty important to be able to actively engage in classroom lessons and instruction and to learn. We do a lot with our eyes to help us learn. And so if it is that impactful on the student, if there's an injury and there's swelling and the child's in pain, it's probably best to get him to a doctor, to be honest, or a clinic. Here's a tricky one, head lice. Oh gosh.
Is this going to be home or school, guys?
Head
We say
lice.
treat and send to school. We say school. We say school.
Yeah. Guidance,
Ugh.
treat and send to school. It's yucky, but that is the state Department of Public Health and the DPS guidance. Treat them and send them to school. That comes not just from DPS, that comes from the state of Colorado. All right. They were sick, but overnight they didn't have a fever and they haven't taken Tylenol or ibuprofen or acetaminophen or any other medicine to reduce the fever. I've already put that in the chat. Sorry.
School is right. Nice
Cool.
work.
Even if they were sick at dinner time the night before, if they at dinner time the night before, they had a fever and you gave them ibuprofen, but then overnight they didn't have a fever and they didn't need any medicine overnight, and you didn't need any medicine in the morning, they can go to school. We want them at school. We want them there. We do have this updated guidance on our dpsk12.org website under attendance. We have this guidance and more around oh my gosh, how do I know if I should be sending my child to school or not? Do I keep them home? Is this an instance where I just call them and tell them and they watch my child and call me if things get worse? All that guidance is available on our DPS website. All right, parents' role. What should we do? We want to partner with parents. We want to help you and we want to help your student. The best way we can do that is if we have communication with you all. So every single time your child will be late, will need to leave early, or will be absent, we want you to communicate with that school every single time. There's a couple of different ways. You can, of course, call the school's attendance line and leave a message. And on Parent Portal, on the app on Portal, especially, this is really cool feature, especially if you have students. Let's say you have 3 kids in 2 different schools, and they all ended up with COVID and fevers. And your doctor said, keep them home for 2 days. You can go on Parent Portal and you can use Parent Portal for all 3 students right there at the same time to ask that they be excused because they have COVID. And you can do that instead of having to call and leave that same message twice for 2 different schools. You can just do it right on Parent Portal and mark them absent that way. Something else you can do, make sure that appointments are after school or on days when there are no classes. I know that can be hard to do, especially when there's so many doctor's offices that only have appointments during certain times. Do your very, very best to make sure that those appointments happen after school or on those no student contact days. This is really important. Scheduling vacations and trips on days when there's no school. It's tough. Sometimes I know that there's opportunities. You're like, oh my gosh, we're going to extend winter break because this is the only time we get to see family. And so we really want to take advantage of it. Just know that every day matters for your child. Every minute matters. Every day matters. The more they miss school, the further they fall behind. You can't always control their health and when they get sick and when they don't get sick. Sometimes you can't control when those doctor's appointments are, and you can control when your vacations are. Develop a backup plan to get your child to school. If there's something were to happen to you and you're driving your child to school and dropping them off in the morning, what is the backup plan if suddenly the car dies and you can't get the car to start and your partner at home has already gone off to work with the other car? What is the backup plan? Or maybe all of a sudden you woke up and you were really, really sick and you are the only way that your child can get to school. How can you reach out to other families in the community or your neighbors to get that backup plan in case something happens? Just to be ready. We know life happens, so how can you be ready and prepared when life does happen? What else can you do? Remember, we said before, it's easier to maintain a healthy habit from the beginning than it is to break a bad habit. So let's start from the very beginning on these healthy habits, making sure your child's going to bed on time, not just, I have 3 kids, not just when they say they're going to bed, but that actually screens are off and put away. And they're not sitting there with their phone next to their bed and waking up to respond to text at 12:30 at night or 2 in the morning. Making sure they're actually going to bed on time and getting enough sleep, that's part of that, and getting them up on time. Starting those habits from the very beginning. Laying out clothes and backpacks the night before. Again, you're building up these lifelong habits, right? So if you say, let's make sure you have clean clothes and everything ready to go before you go to bed, then if by some chance the child wakes up late the next morning, things are ready to go and you don't have to scramble and figure it out. Make sure you're doing what you can do to keep your child healthy. Make sure they have their required shots, make sure they're eating healthy, getting enough water, getting some physical movement keeping your child overall healthy is important for their balance, but it's also important because they're less likely to get sick. And that'll keep them with those healthy habits. If your child seems anxious, let's talk a little bit about mental health, right? Because that's a big deal. It is a very big deal. So if your child seems really anxious, please, again, going back to communication, please let us know. We have resources in our schools that can help support your student, but we can't support your student if they're not there and we don't know what's going on. So communicate, communicate, communicate. Let us know how we can partner with you to help support your student. Monitoring your students' attendance on Parent Portal. This is one of the ways where you can see exactly how many days on Parent Portal, which we talked about before, asking for those absences to be excused. You can also look at Parent Portal and see exactly what your child's attendance is, what classes they've missed, how many times they've shown up tardy. You can check in on that, and that's important to check in regularly. I recommend every week pulling up Parent Portal and checking your students' attendance and tardies, especially once they start getting older, right? And so sometimes they're like, I'm in charge of myself now. I don't need to be on time to this class. And then when you try and ask them about it, sometimes they're like, well, the teacher even says, et cetera, et cetera. But again, we are supporting students with lifelong healthy habits. Even if my boss were to tell me, oh, don't worry about coming in on time, I'm still going to come on time because I know that that's part of my expectation as an employee. Learning those expectations starts from a very young age. Jasmine, were we going to go ahead and play this video, or are we going to have it as a resource?
We can play it. I will walk you through. So when you shared your screen, did you click optimize for video?
Probably not.
Okay, so hit the share button again. And
Okay.
then on the right side, you have share sound optimized for video clip, and you want to hit both.
It won't, the optimize is
Did you
not,
hit share sound?
I did.
Okay. Oh, and it won't let you optimize it. Mark, should we do mono or stereo then if we're not able to optimize?
We should do mono.
Okay, so stick with the mono that it's on, and now it should be able to play. Yes, and let's give some Spanish subtitles. We have a request for that.
Did I turn those on? Do I
Okay,
need-
that'll be inside the video. When you click on the video, you'll see a CC, closed captioning.
Hi, DPS families.
Right there.
We know that you have busy lives and a lot to manage.
Let's pause
When
the
it
video
comes
for
to
a
your
second.
child's academic life,
Okay, sorry guys. There's always some technical difficulties with videos, so we're trying to make sure we get it right for you. Did you click on closed caption?
I did.
Okay, click on yeah, it should have subtitles in it.
It turned on the subtitles, but they're only in English.
Go to the gear there, click on the gear and change subtitles to Spanish.
Yay. All right,
You.
good to go.
Ándale, ahí está. Thanks you everyone for your patience.
Hi, DPS families. We know that you have busy lives and a lot to manage. When it comes to your child's academic life, the all-new DPS Parent Portal makes it easier than ever to manage. Whether it's grades, attendance, educational apps, or something else, it's all in the DPS Parent Portal. Let's take a look. Log in at myportal.dpsk12.org on your computer or smartphone. Have a Parent Portal account already? Your username and password are the same, so you're ready to go and log in right away. Don't have a Parent Portal account? You can create an account with your email, child's ID, and date of birth. Now check your email and click the verification link to finish setting up your account. Once you're in, check your child's grades, attendance, and schedule. If you have more than one student, toggle between your students here. Need to get in touch with your child's teacher? You can email them right from the portal if you have questions or if you'd like to schedule a meeting. Need to add lunch money to your child's account? Log into the portal and add money today. Does your child ride the bus? Check the portal to see if your child scanned on or off the bus correctly. There's so much more to explore in the DPS Parent Portal. helping you get a better handle on everything in your student's academic life. Now simpler than ever before.
Thank you. So that is a very quick overview about the Principal Portal. It was very fast. This video is also available on our dpsk12.org website that you can look up for Parent Portal and rewatch that video if you needed it again. Oh,
Hi,
how do I? Thank you very much for your attention tonight and for all of your interactions. I really enjoyed being able to go through those interactions with you in terms of what we thought about chronic absenteeism and how sick is too sick. I hope these resources are helpful to you. We do have a DPS attendance page on our dpsk12.org website with a lot more information about attendance. I am available for questions as needed. However, my first level of encouragement would always be to please communicate with your school. Your school knows your students. They already love your students and they want to support you in doing the absolute best for your students. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Corey. Does anybody have questions before we wrap up with our survey and raffle? I'm sorry, not raffle. It is a giveaway. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. Type it in the chat. Feel free to hang out at the end. If you want it to be private, that's when we will have our live stream off. We'll help the recording and you are welcome to ask private questions. But I have a quick feedback survey for you. It is 5 questions. And while you fill that out, I'll go through the rest of our slides. Can you go to the next slide, please, Corey? We really appreciate you being here today. Like, you guys are doing the most. We understand this is a big topic and it can bring up some feelings of maybe feeling guilty or like you're not doing enough. You're trying your best and you're here today to learn about it. And I think that that's spectacular. And because you're so spectacular, we're going to give away 3 tickets today to some families that are still here. So let me share my screen and we will spin the wheel. Okay, so I should have everybody's name on here. If you do not see your name when you're here,
You
speak
need
now.
to share your screen to show the,
Oh, you don't see it?
no.
Okay, let me fix it. Do we see it now? I have Erin, Eve, Lori, Mary, Santos, Rico, Marielle. Then I have 9693 because you didn't have a name. So we're going to use those last 4 digits. Judith and Norma. Anybody that I missed? Okay, we're going to spin the wheel then 3 times. And go. And Erin, you are our first winner. Yay! Just make sure that you put your email in the chat for me so we can set up getting you tickets to either Children's Museum, Museum of Nature and Science, or History Colorado. And we're going to spin again. Yeah. And Marielle, yay! Drop your email in the chat for me. I want to be able to get you those tickets, which means I gotta know how to get a hold of you. If a phone number is better, you can chat that as well, and I'll text. All right, last spin. And we have Eve as our last winner. Yay, Eve! Oh, there it
Jasmine,
goes.
can you give it to a family since I'm a staff member?
Absolutely. Spin it
Okay.
again. Thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate you. Okay. I think Erin is already a winner. So let me get rid of those names real quick. My bad. Erin has 1. Mary L 1. And then let's spin it again. Last spin here, guys. We have, who was the close one? Oh, right over to Mary. Yay, Mary. drop your email or your phone number, whichever you prefer, for me to contact you to be able to get you your winnings, you guys. All right, I'm going to so in our next slide is just telling you about our upcoming events. I just want to let you know we have family meals starting. So if you are a family or a parent or a caregiver that wants to learn a little bit more about how to connect with your child, absenteeism can be a lot related to behaviors. Like you might see your child having tantrums in the morning, and how hard is that for you? Come learn how to connect with your child, learn some skills like logical consequencing, proactive listening through our family meals program. It's 3 one-hour sessions. You get to connect with other families and find out what they do culturally for dinner time, and some really helpful tools to disconnect from the technology and sit with each other so that you're checking in on what's happening throughout the school day when you don't get to see your child, and you guys have a little bit more honest, open communication. We will also have our next Face University on September 30th. That's going to be trauma-informed practices from 5 to 6. If you are on our email list, you'll be getting that information. If you're not on our email list, drop your email in the chat so we can make sure that you are on the list. It's going to teach you some skills around about 80% of kids will end up in some sort of tier 1 behavior support that they need. And trauma-informed restorative practices are one of those behavior supports. So you can come meet the team, ask some questions about what is a tier 1 behavior and what they do to make sure that they are giving kids authentic advice for their needs and mental health supports. Yeah, and then it'll be a double whammy. So on the 1st, we will have Bullying 101. It's one of our past sessions, but we're going to be recording it. We have some new interesting information about bullying for you, so check it out. And thanks everybody for coming. Thank you for your feedback, and thank you for your support as DPS families. We need our families for our students to thrive. We appreciate you. Feel free to stay on for questions. We're going to stop the recording now.